I don't think this is exactly going to get me out of the hot seat with the other video I already posted. But I figured I would talk some about sort of single life, but some lessons that I've learned. I mean, they haven't done me any good, but that's kind of not the point of it. Um, you're supposed to be the type of person, a good person. You're supposed to do what's right, not because of what good it'll bring you. It's really got more to do with that's just the way you're supposed to treat people. That's you treat people right because they deserve to be treated right, not because you're going to get something from it. And I can tell you a lot of times you don't. But again, that's not the purpose. I've mentioned before that, and this isn't just romantic relationships. This is any relationships. It could be relatives. It could be, especially if they've passed on. It could be friendships. It could just be people that you met somewhere. My memory, my ability to remember detail plays hell with that, and all the time I have to think about this stuff. I mean, I'm sort of interrupting myself, but I'll give you one good example. Years ago, and this will happen if you have a bunch of old vehicles, especially down south, and especially if they're visible enough, you can have people stopping and asking about them. And I remember this has been several years ago, and I'd been asked about them so many times, and I was done. I was done. And this one guy stopped and asked, big guy, like a giant version of Van Morrison is what he looked like. Except for Van Morrison's like 5'2" or something like that. He's built about like him, but he's more like 6'4" at least. Big, broad man. And he lived down the road from me. And he started asking about a vehicle, and I snapped at him. I didn't cuss him out or nothing like that, but I was very short, you could tell I was angry, and I wasn't having none of it, and I didn't have anything to say to him. And he was nothing but polite. And he got back in his truck and he drove away. And I would pass his house, and I'd want to go by there. I mean, I think he's a truck driver or something. He spent long periods of time not there, but I would see him there occasionally. And I kept wanting to pull over and apologize for how I talked to him. And I never did. And something happened. I don't know what it was. And you could just see it was a double wide. The grass started to grow up. And stopped seeing his vehicle there. And I don't even know what happened. I don't even know if the house is still there or not. He may have died. And I never got the chance to apologize. And it wasn't a big thing, you know. But I carry that with me now. Bothers me. And with my previous relationships, and I got to be a little vague about this. I don't know. Somebody might pop up and say something that's here and there about this. And it'll be a conflict, kind of undermine the point I'm trying to make here. But I remember any of my relationships. I'll say here and now, and you only got my word for this, but I was the good guy. I was betrayed, misused, cheated on every time. And that's not the thing I carry with me, because I didn't do that. They did that. That's on them. What bothers me, believe it or not, is that I could have been better as a significant other. That really sticks with me. I could have been better. And I'm kind of proud of that's, you would think, why, if you knew somebody was going to do you wrong, why would you want to be better? Maybe you should have been worse. No, because how somebody else treats you is not on you. You don't have to carry that burden. That's not your cross to bear. That's theirs. You're going to remember what you did. That's the guilt. It's what you did or didn't do. And there's a lot of that I carry with me. And it kind of influences how I am now with, you know, kind of what I was talking about with that other video. I try to be the best person I can be to that person. I've mentioned this on another video. Unless they've given me reason to be otherwise, I don't want to make anyone's life any worse for me having been there. At the very least, I don't want to take anything away from your life. If your life is just like this right here, I want it to stay like that. I'd like to make it better, but at the very least, I don't want to make it worse. I don't want to make your day harder. I don't want to make your workplace that much more uncomfortable, that much more something to dread. I even got another day off and I'm still dreading the next day. That's kind of a glass half empty mentality, but so that's kind of how I approach life. You get on these singles ads, or just you get out in town walking around. Extremely congested today. But anyway, you know, I try not to just judge by looks. I try to pick up on some kind of vibe, and that's not easy to do, or interest, or something like that. And people aren't as forthcoming about who they are and what they're into, and it's just hard to do it like that. And it actually, it's so much more unnatural to do it through a personal ad, but you're more likely to get some kind of detail about what the person is and what they're into and what they like. You can get a lot of times from a Facebook profile. And I'm told you're not supposed to do that, but, you know, you get some kind of idea. Again, I don't want to make somebody's life worse. I don't want to make their day worse. If I'm in it for no reason, that's just a waste of their time. Time is precious. I'd rather bother someone who we at least have a few things in common. Might not work out then either, but at least there's some kind of logic in the approach. But anyway, it's funny how things change. You get on these ads and you're trying to find somebody. It's almost like you're trying to find somebody who's good enough. I mean, that's a weird way of phrasing it if you don't have high self-esteem. I certainly don't. It's not that I think this or that person is not good enough for me. It's that they're not into this enough, or they don't have this strong enough interest in that. You know, I see the same old pop music in their little music listing things. They don't talk about anything. There's nothing for me to sort of hang my hat on, you know. You can't try to make a conversation with them. They've given you nothing. They've given you nothing. You got to pick something out of the clear blue sky. And it's hard to do that. And you would think people would be more cultured in this area. And not really. There's so much... Because I know outside of this area, you'd probably think, oh, everybody's old-timey, and not really. Not like you would think. Not like you would hope. In a good way. I know there's bad old-timey ways you can be, too. But, you know, you can't talk about old music because they don't know nothing about that. They tell you not to talk about politics, but that's kind of important these days. If you mention that, at best, they don't know anything about that. They have no stances on anything. You talk about traveling, they like everything, claim to like everything about music, and they don't. They don't know anything about it. It's just what the radio pops into their head, and that's what they're into. Whatever new show comes on, new movie, that's what they're into. There's nothing to talk about. Here's what's funny. Here's what changes. You run across one who does have those points of interest. It immediately flips. Now you're like, okay, how good am I? Am I up to par? It's kind of like the best way to illustrate it is, let's say I was looking for a musician, and it would be great if I could find one. Somebody that's a wannabe musician like myself. Well, a lot of times you find two extremes in that with women in this area. Somebody who vaguely says that they want to play and they've taken 0 steps towards it, and they're in their 30s, 40s, or 50s. It's like, why haven't you even tried by now? Or they're friggin' Sue Foley or something like that. They're just magnificent. And you're like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm crap. There's those extremes. It's like, I'm not fit to talk to her. And this one over here, I'm tired of being somebody's parent. And that's something else that happened with me in previous relationships too that was aggravating, is you had to practically raise them. It's all these things I'm into. I got to introduce them to all these things. Why don't they already know these things? They have the same opportunity I did. And that's frustrating. But that's the two extremes. And when you start to see that they're a good person, very interesting, deep person, you're like, you don't even so much want them for yourself anymore. You do, but you mainly, you're like, I want what's best for them. You can almost be their sort of cheerleader. Like if they're not on a singles ad, if somebody you're interested in work, I've vaguely mentioned this before, but I think there's one video I had to delete. Didn't get it finished, messed up or something. Let's say there's a woman at work, and there's a few interesting ones at work. Again, I don't want to make their workplace uncomfortable. I don't want to be the final straw that makes them quit. But also, you just kind of, let's say, for example, because you don't know that they're single, right? Unless they're wearing a big diamond ring or something like that. And even then, in workplaces, a lot of times they'll take it off for safety. So let's say there's one you're interested in. This is kind of a test right here. Let's say there's one you're interested in as a man. I guess you could change genders on this however you want. You find out this person has somebody. What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on that? What's your next thought? What's your knee-jerk reaction? You're interested in this person. You really like to have somebody like that as far as you can tell from what you know. But you find out they have somebody. What's your mentality? Where's your thought process go? I'll tell you where a lot of people's go, and I'm not going to give a ratio, but a lot of people are like, well, maybe they'll break up. You're not supposed to think that. You're not supposed to think that. It hurts, but you're supposed to wish them well. That's the whole point of it. If I see a woman I think is a great person, she's interesting, she's just great any way I can see, what I'm supposed to do is wish her well, want the best for her. That might not include me. That's a tough pill to swallow, but it is what it is. And it's not, I've often kind of pondered on that and be like, well, is it just because I've turned into a quitter? I don't feel like putting the effort forward. Maybe that's not me being considerate. Maybe that's just me being scared. No. The only thing I'm afraid of, I will say, I'm not afraid of getting in another bad relationship. I'm not afraid of that. I know it sounds like famous last words. I know a lot of people have said it and been fooled again. And that's all of us. I feel like I can spot a bad one. I feel like even though as alone as I've been, I don't think a bad one could hide themselves. I feel like what they would sort of take away from me initially would stop me from being in a relationship with them. Because I think the first thing they would take from you would be your peace and your freedom. I think they'd really sort of pretty close to, at the beginning, disrupt your life to make it more like it's focused on them instead of both of you at best. I'm more afraid of finding a good one that's the wrong one. Because it's like getting back to that whole breaking up thing. It's never really a good thing, is it? Is it pleasant? Has anybody, I guess it's possible, has anybody ever broke up and it's been pleasant? All smiles? It's usually extremely painful. So why would you wish that on someone? And believe me, there's a woman, and there's probably still part of me that's hung up on her. Let's just give her a name. Let's just say Tara, okay? Pick that one out. It's not a real common name. Uh, I was hung up on her. She was in a relationship the whole time I knew her. And we were friends and enemies and friends and enemies. And I was married when we first got together. So nothing could happen anyway. But when time passed, we worked together, ended up stopping working there. I carried a torch for her. And I did that for many years. And like I said, there's still probably part of me that does. And it's kind of changed the course of my life because I'm kind of sort of using her as a filter. Probably influences my life more than I think it is, too. But again, I didn't want to break her up. That's what's crazy about it. And I had all kinds of belief that we were supposed to be together. I couldn't break her up. I couldn't wish that she would break up. I couldn't. If you love somebody, you respect somebody, you want the best for them, you're not ever going to want anything bad to happen to them. Sadly enough, if you find out they're in a relationship, you basically have to hope they stay in a relationship. That's just the way it is. I don't think a lot of people realize that. You're going to want the best for them. Now, if it's not the best for them, then they got to break up. But that's not going to be your thought process. You're not going to sort of weenie that in there. Like, well, maybe if they're not happy, they should break up. You're going to hope that they are happy. That she doesn't have to go through that. Wouldn't that be great for all of us? But, that's just a few thoughts that I have on love and relationships, and it's not gonna wipe that slate clean from that last one. I'm sure a lot of people are probably gonna think I'm a sexist or something like that from that one. I don't know. Sometimes you can't say the right thing. You just gotta. It's kind of like the relationship thing. This is another thing I can throw in there. As long as your heart's in the right place, and I know I'm not a testament for this, but as long as your heart is in the right place, you can kind of do whatever you want. If you're being nice and you're being considerate and your heart is in the right place, there's no bad approach. There's not one. You're not ever wrong for sort of being yourself. Like I said, as long as you're being a good person, as long as you're being considerate and treating them with respect, you can't screw up. It's impossible to. Because they're going to love you for you, or they're not. That's just the way it is. If they're not, you can't pretend to be another person. You can only pretend for so long. But that's just the way it is. Hopefully somebody gets something from this. I haven't been directly asking people to like and share and subscribe and all that, but please do. I'm trying to get monetized on this thing. All the congestion and all that, that's from my workplace, and I don't know how it's going to play long term. I know I've had places in the past that have made me fairly unhealthy. Trying to live long enough to actually get in a relationship, you know what I mean? Anyway, more later.